here goes Chris Lewis. You know what I'm saying? A Georgia man who at first was the story went that he dropped his kids off at the Mickey D's. I didn't know he was 24, by the way, with a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And the story went that, hey, man, I'm going to stop by, get you a Happy Meal, chill out right here because they have like a little playground. Daddy going to be right back, right? And so initially the story was he went to a job interview. By the time he came back, the popo was there. And immediately people felt kind of bad, or some people had different opinions, right? Like, how you going to leave your kids at the McDonald's? You know what I'm saying? So there was that conversation around just a 24-year-old brother seemingly trying to get a job, being put in a tight position. I mean, how old were some of us when we stayed home to take care of some of our kids? Many of us were latchkey, right? So that was the convo, and we can still have it. But apparently S&M was like, whoa, there's been an update. You know what I'm saying? Which kind of gives us a little duality. So he went from one guy who didn't want to be a father to a particular woman. Because be clear, Anthony Edwards, I think, has been a father to his other kids, or at least a couple of them. So it's not like he's a deadbeat all the way. For some reason, he doesn't really want to fuck with Shorty, and he's adamant about that. So I didn't want to pay him out as a deadbeat completely, right? But this guy looks like he was being a dad, but an irresponsible one. So S&M, what's the update on that?
So basically, the story was that, yes, he did have an interview earlier that day. However, that interview was 3 hours prior to him dropping them kids off at the at McDonald's. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking about how he thought this was going to be a win-win situation for him, where he was going to be like, oh, I dropped the kids off because I had an interview. And it was a feel-good story until you found out that they followed up. I guess he didn't think the cops was going to follow up, but they followed up with the place he had an interview with. They were like, oh, that was at 1:00 when that interview occurred. And he apparently dropped the kids off around, and they got surveillance tape and everything pertaining to the time he dropped the kids off, to the time he went to the interview, which was prior to that, and then the time he returned. So apparently after being there for like about 3 hours or so, the kids called their mama at 6:12, the oldest, the 10-year-old. Now we'll note, wow, 24 with a 10-year-old. That's 14. He was,
I thought that too. I thought that too. I was
so,
like,
right? I was like, wow. And so with that being said, the 10-year-old called her mom at 6:12, which kind of sucks because he arrived back at 6:18. And it turns out when he arrived back, the police and their mama was there waiting for him. So literally between a minute of, and the best part is the McDonald's and where he was at was within a 5-minute walking distance. So he apparently told his daughter, or the 10-year-old, that he was going to go and drop a backpack off at this apartment complex that was within a 5-minute walk, and just never came back for a minute. So I found it fascinating because, like you said, there were so many people who jumped on this like, oh, this is a heartfelt story. This young Black brother was trying to get this job. And, it's hard out there. The JOBs ain't coming by, and McDonald's is a safe place. And it was a 10-year-old, but it also was a 1-year-old. It was a 6-year-old. And the 10-year-old was left in charge of that 1-year-old, And with that being said, Antonio Brown, he jumped into it because he like, man, yo, I feel you. He started a GoFundMe. He contributed $60K. As a matter of fact, as of this morning, that GoFundMe was $80K. And I'm just curious, is he still going to get that money or not? But anyways, that's the update.
yeah, I hate to be like this because it do be Black people sometimes. It's, it's because listen, when I first heard the story the first time, I was like, you know what? Like, damn. Because any of us with small children, for example, know that, oh my God, childcare is freaking expensive as hell, right? Daycare, for example. I mean, you might be talking $200-$300 per kid, depending on where you drop your kid off at, right, on a weekly basis. For parents who are having to make some tough choices, right? I mean, many of us may be far removed from that, but honestly, like daycare by itself is super expensive. So I was like, damn, 24 years old, a father of 3, sounded really responsible in terms of him trying to get a job. So I think we can all resonated or at least empathize with that. And then the fact that, he's trying to get a job, had to leave the kids somewhere. So yeah, there were some people who were like, yo, you could have left him at the crib. Many of us would have probably been left at the crib if we're being honest. If we're really, really being honest, we grew up at a time where it wasn't maybe outside the lines that, yes, maybe a 10-year-old or 11-year-old or 12-year-old would be responsible, not only for a 6-year-old, but also, yes, a baby, a 1-year-old. I mean, if you take care of a baby, they gonna shit, you know what I'm saying? You feed them, they gonna lay down and sleep some more. Until they're ambulatory, that's when you really gotta get a little whatever. But come on, man. For those of us who grew up in that environment, it wasn't something that we were like, oh my God, this is so like foreign to us. I get that times have changed, right? So that was the initial sentiment. I feel like there is really a conversation around what's going on with childcare, you know what I mean? And how it's hampering parents, of all classes, right? In terms of making sure their kids are good while they still have to go out there and get a job. There are some people out there who have to make the tough choice between shit, if all I'm doing to work is pay for my child support, my child care, I might as well just stay home, right? Like it legit
Mhm.
is not even a matter of soft life or, tradition. It's like, it doesn't make any sense that I'm going to pay this to be outside the home and I'm not substantially bringing up anything bringing any income into the home. So these are things that a lot of people are dealing with. And unfortunately, that may not have been the case here. I think some of that is the case here. For him to be 24 with a 14-year-old with 3 kids is a lot, right? And I just hope that young people out there recognize that having kids, and especially if you have the constitution of being responsible or being a responsible father, that's a lot to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. You enjoy having sex and maybe you want to wrap it up, but at some point we got to expect adults, especially young adults, to be more responsible, especially when it comes to having these babies out here. You know what I'm saying? He's 24. You know what I'm saying? He should be, living his best life. You know what I mean? Getting into his tech career or whatever technical skill or a trade or going to college. Like, there's so much more. So I wish that for him and all of these young people. But I totally get that was not the case here. So with that being
Wait,
said, we got to be equally, whatever the flip side of empathy is, bruh, bruh. Okay, no GoFundMe for you, no empathy or maybe sympathy. I get it, but no. You're gonna have to pay the consequences, my guy. You know what I'm saying? Yet another uh, dumb decision, right? Or a not unwise decision. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to. The young man has time to grow and mature and make better decisions, but it just seems to me he's not left the season of making bad decisions in his life. And I wish for him the autumn of that season.
I just want to add that I actually support the GoFundMe, keeping that GoFundMe, because it turns out as part of that police follow up, they asked they asked the interviewer, was he going to have a follow up interview? They said no. And so I was like, dang,
Oh,
he
they
don't
just being
lost the
messy.
job.
They just being
I
messy.
was like,
That's so
man,
messy.
they don't lost the job.
They ain't have to ask that question. I mean, what you think's gonna happen after y'all go back after the popos? Like, let's say, for example, he had a good interview, right? He was like, yo, I might be able to get this job, right? Then his homeboy calls him. He got to make a little quick run. He's like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to drop him off at the McDonald's real quick. Because, he owe people. It's not like how else he been paying his bills, right? So, boom. So then, right? Then the whole kids call the mom thing. He shows back up. So, yeah, I'm kind of fucked up. But this job interview that I did really well in might still be on the table, only for the police or the nosy ass whoever went back and like, hey, remember this guy? Did he come here? Oh yeah, the one we was going to hire. What happened? He left his kids at the McDonald's.
Okay.
And so now the job that he might have been right now getting ready to get, y'all done went there being messy and hated on that man.
And
That
now
is
they
so messed
said
up.
no. He will not be getting a follow-up interview. So I want to support the GoFundMe though, because he's a young man trying to be responsible to a degree. I will say this, that regardless of young men, young women, please, for the love of God, practice seed control, womb control, because you're already setting yourself up for failure when you start having kids at 14, 15. Now, back in the day with our generation, not our generation, but the parents' generation and the grandparents' generation, that was the norm. But it is no reason for that to be the norm in today's age. Like, there's too many ways to protect yourself to not drop these kids. Like, there's no there. So to me, I would just say this, my brother, I support you. Yes, you made some dumbass decisions, and you actually, I think they're only charging you with a misdemeanor. So you might be getting a second chance in life. But please, I support you trying to go out there and get a job, but just be more responsible. And also, that's messed up though, the time frame when he showed up at 6:18 and she called at 6:12.